You may consider that I'm simply hate-watching at this point, and while it'd be disingenuous to proclaim enjoyment for the show, there are a few narratives and characterizations which warrant some positivity, even hope. To what I prominently refer, and if not already obvious, are the scenes and narratives that revolve around Khazad-dum. King Durin III, now with his own ring of power, begins to showcase of change, and not necessarily for the better.
This is where we're meant to dig. Now do as I say.
The king succeeds in breaking through to receive the sun's light, validating his newfound trust in this mystical construct of elven ingenuity. Keeping with the dwarves of Khazad-dum, while far from perfect, and yes, the mithril mystery box MacGuffin was certainly a lazy and illogical piece of Deus Ex Machina, there seems a higher degree of quality and care taken with weaving the narratives and with the development of character. Most other characters come across more like one-dimensional cookie-cutter archetypes, but with the dwarves, at least to date, and like clothing of their personalities, there appears more layers. With King Durin III, and while he's conservative, cautious, and concise with sharing his views, he also showcases of compassion and consideration for his family and people. I find that Peter Mullen has proven quite effective in his role as King Durin III. In extension to these other attributes, he also conveys of a stubborn streak, and now under the ring's influence, there's a callousness and greed not before witnessed. Prince Durin, portrayed by Owain Arthur, while hot-headed and stubborn, has also exhibited of softer and more relatable qualities, with how he confides in his wife and in his friendship with young Ned Stark, and to a healthy skepticism for those around him, whether it be the rings or any motivations around the acquiring of mithril, with Princess Disa, played by Sophia Nivetti, while also possessing of stubborn and headstrong characteristics, consistent with the dwarves as we've come to understand them. She has proven a supportive, thoughtful, and moderate persona, often serving as a voice of reason, while also having her own moments where she loses her temper and composure. You see, there are elements to this show where I can be complimentary. Perhaps I'm just biased, somehow have an unhealthy and subconscious fetish for dwarves.
It's the beards.
I can also consider that this might be some desperation to find something, anything, but I digress. Positivity, I can do this.
Keep breathing. That's the key. Breathe. Oh.
Back with Celebrimbor and this Anatar, this Hellbrand, this...
Thank
The dwarves present Aragion with a gift.
Behold, the doors of Durin, the new west gate of our mountain, unbreachable, only visible by moonlight, and guarded by a password known only to friends.
Yes, I know it's derivative, but I kinda like it. A more subtle nod than most things to date, and to The Lord of the Rings, where it fits with the world building and to the peculiar love-hate relationship between elves and dwarves.
What about side by side with a friend?
I could do that.
With that said, somewhat weird to have the door presented at Aragion. Might have served easier, made more sense to present this back at Khazad-dum, rather than lugging that big piece of rock around. But whatever, and at this point it is a nitpick.
It is a game you play, is it not? Sowing seeds in others' minds and then convincing them that the fruit is of their own thought.
Smart, smart, smart.
Has Celebrimbor awoken from his slumber?
We cannot give rings to men. The risk of corruption is simply too great. I'm sorry. The answer is no.
Smart, smart, smart.
Very well, I shall make the 9 myself.
If only Celebrimbor hadn't the spine of a jellyfish. Oops, positive.
We're sorry.
Back in Numenor, Pharazôn shares his wisdom with a doting son.
Impress me in the task that I am about to place upon you. Fail to do so, and I shall have to find other places to make use of you.
I guess this will end up being sufficient to make our web search later Kemen? You know, the soy boy pasty and petulant bugger that would even make Grima Wormtongue blush. He appears only one barb away from becoming the next Joffrey Baratheon.
The king! I will punish you.
I mean, I'm certain he's an astounding young man who'll set the world alight. And so the purge begins.
Anyone deemed loyal to the Queen Regent has been stripped of rank.
Isildur's sister challenges her father on the treachery of the Queen Regent's use of the Palantir.
You mock that which is sacred.
I mock that which is absurd.
Perhaps I can cast off the shackles of presumed misogyny. I wish to become Team Earian. Hey, I got it!
You are walking a treacherous path.
And yours is made of seawater. Take care to keep your feet beneath you. It's a long way to the bottom.
Don't forget to bring a towel.
Disa has her doubts about King Durin. Fair enough. She follows her orb purchase, having lost control of it in the clumsiest and most plot-convenient fashion. Finding herself in the Batcave, she starts singing, and I begin to believe that I've accidentally begun rewatching The Woman King. Believe me, once is more than enough. We hear the bellowing of a creature. She drops her gigantic snow globe, and I cannot recall her claiming insurance. This would be a perfect point for a plug. Consider subscribing, so I can then advertise to whatever insurance company. Consider subscribing from the kindness of your heart.
Please, sir, I want some more.
I know, perhaps I'm simply being greedy.
We should be delving much deeper. But who set these restrictions? Well, you did, sire.
Prince Durin warns the king of Disa's discovery, of a nameless evil, ancient and powerful.
The dwarves delved too greedily and too deep. You know what they awoke in the darkness of Khazad-dum.
While pulling direct references from The Lord of the Rings, this isn't bad fan service. I kind of like it. Perhaps a tad hypocritical, but remember, positivity. Back at the Forge of Virigion, and having learnt of some concerning revelations from his younger apprentice, Celebrimbor meets with Prince Durin.
There simply cannot be a fault with your ring.
Dum 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 dum.
How much do you really know about this senator?
Smoke, 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 smoke.
In the meantime, Halbrand manipulates this apprentice.
How strange, when the light caught your hair. For a moment, you seemed her perfect likeness. Whose likeness? Why, Lady Galadriel's, of course.
Honestly, and if referring to this Galadriel, well, she should have slapped him. It is a trend in this show. In Memoria for the Fallen.
This shrine is condemned by order of the king.
Kemen? I have to keep reminding myself of this character's name. He intentionally drops the relic before the old man, and it shatters to pieces. Well, now there is no ambiguity. Clearly we're not meant to like him. Elendil then punches him across the face. It would seem that's all the provocation needed.
May the Valar forgive me.
Elendil now enters the fray, and what little self-restraint had remained is lost. The proceedings escalate into a brawl. Having finally obtained the upper hand with Joffrey at sword point, Elendil pleads with Valandil to yield. Adhering to his captain's request, this Kemen, having recovered, then stabs him from behind. Celebrimbor has begun to ask more questions, to speculate upon this Lord of Gifts' involvement and influence.
There is something wrong with the Dwarven rings. Did you, in some way, alter the Dwarven rings, yes or no?
Smoke, 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 smoke.
Some clumsy reasoning around Celebrimbor's betrayal of the High King through the lie that was his letter, and he concedes to the forging of the Nine.
The Nine must do far more than bring aid to men. They must bring balance to the entire project.
Dum 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 dum.
Back with the dwarves, Prince Durin cannot make any headway with his father.
I tell you, some devilry has gone into these rings. We mustn't use them anymore. I am proud of you. Your desire to partner with the elves has saved our kingdom.
The episode finishes with Adar's army approaching Eregion. This might be the best single episode to date. While somewhat dragged down by the Numenor narrative, the dwarves are solid, and there's also more emphasis on the rings of power, which is a good thing. Further, there are no annoying and unnecessary half-foot subplots, and little to no Galadriel. These are additions by subtraction. Yes, I acknowledge I did fail to retain positivity throughout. Will there be further improvement, or will there be a noteworthy decline with the next and successive episodes? I'd still lean toward the notion of it being one step forward, and then we'll follow with 3 steps back. But for now, I shall toast to the positive.